Charles Bukowski was a German poet and writer. He is one of the biggest authorities of the digital realism movement, which, according to the Collins Dictionary, is a style of writing originated in the US in the 1980s, which depicts in great detail the similar or more mundane aspects of ordinary life. One of his most famous works is Hammer Right. In this novel, he made a raw representation of the American low class, showing how they struggled to survive during the years of the Great Depression and the Second World War. He created very complex characters who were heavily dependent on alcohol, hired prostitutes, and masturbated compulsively. The American dream is something every low-class American and immigrant dreams about. This thought has been stuck in the head of many people. The thought that even though today you are nobody, you can become anything you set your mind for with enough effort and dedication. However, in this novel, there is a clear lack of this so-called idea, which in many other books and films which have the same lower-class characters is so present. Henry Chinaski, our protagonist, is a guy whose only ambition is to wander around, drink, and live a normal life, merely existing, as we can see in this next quote. Henry is aware that he is a bad student, with few social skills, and his opportunities in life are almost nil. He has long forgotten about accomplishing anything in life. At some point, he even asks his father what is the easiest thing to do, to which his father responds, journalism. He then decides to study journalism even though he has never shown any passion about it, just because it is the easiest thing to do.
Talking about poverty, we can find some examples in the novel, along with the feeling of complete hopelessness about life. Knowing Henry himself, even before anything happens, that everything he could try to do will end up in an abrupt failure in front of others, but what may shock the most, against himself. We see a society living with the traces of the Second World War, a depressive country where the only comfort you may find is in drinking alcohol with your friends hidden from the adults. We clearly see an example of this when Henry says, getting drunk was good. I decided that I would always like getting drunk. It took away the obvious, and maybe if you could get away from the obvious often enough, you wouldn't become so obvious yourself. We see in Henry a child who does not fit in any gap in society, not in a school and not in his own family. A confused child, we may say, who exposes that one of the days he feels more proud about in his life is when he fought against Harvey Gibson, a friend from Jean who was once his friend in the neighborhood, and even though he loses the fight, he leaves the place proud of himself because he has proved that he is tough. Another day is when he was playing baseball with his schoolmates and he did a home run. He was strong, but he was really bad player at any sport. But today he did a home run, he felt proud. He said everyone would still hate him, but it was a better kind of hate, as no one knew why they would hate him. Bukowski explains us the poverty of the society really clear when Henry says that a boy who brought an umbrella to school or wore a raincoat was singled out because most of their parents were too poor to buy such things, and if they did, they used to hit them in the bushes. And anyone seen carrying an umbrella or wearing a raincoat was considered a sissy, and all of them were beaten after school. We know now that this novel is considered a semi-autobiographical work written by Charles Bukowski, whose main character is Henry Chinaski, who is what we may know as an underdog living in a poor America who has to learn how to survive by making mistakes in life with a complete lack of luck. This is how Charles Bukowski felt almost during his whole life, and this is how Henry Chinaski will feel almost during his whole life. In this book, which is the first one of the 6 novels that conforms the series of Henry Chinaski, we see a teenager who doesn't like to study, doesn't like to work, and doesn't see himself in future as a teacher, as a lawyer, or as a doctor. He hates almost everyone. He hates himself for being useless and for being alive. But he will find one thing that he likes, and it is writing. And by the reading of these books, I think Charles Bukowski wanted to teach us that if you like to do one thing, just go for it. If you want to do one thing, do not give up and go for it. This is what he did in his whole life. And there's one phrase that expresses this feeling and this thinking that he wanted to express us by his books. And the phrase is, find what you love and let it kill you, as I think he did.